world. We want to keep it that way.
Thank you very much. Rick?
First, I want to thank you, Mr. President, for putting this meeting together. I think all of us want to figure out how we build a better relationship with Turkey. We know that there's issues that we're dealing with right now, but the goal, my goal here, and I think all of our goal here, is at the end of this meeting, we're in a better position, where we're better allies, where we understand exactly what's going to happen with the S-400. So it's not, Turkey's heading in the direction of the United States, not heading in the direction of Russia.
Very good. Joni?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, President Erdogan, for joining us today. As previously stated, we do want to remain very strong allies in NATO. You are very important to us. So we want to bring you back into that fold. We want to discuss the S-400. I want to say thank you very much for taking in the Syrian refugees that you have. It is very important to us. And then as well, we also want to talk about some of us that have been aligned with the Kurds as well, and how we can work with you through that issue. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. President, welcome. Mr. President, thank you for hosting us. We're glad you are here. Turkey and the United States are friends, are allies. We have many shared strategic interests, and we look forward to continuing that friendship and alliance. At the same time, we have concerns, and I would say the two principal concerns that are in Congress, you've heard both of them referenced, are number one, the S-400 Russian system, which is incompatible with the F-35, and we very much hope Turkey changes the path it's on and does not employ the S-400. And number two, the Kurds. The Kurds have risked a lot to stand with America, to fight against our shared enemies, and there is very real concern that we do not want to see Turkey engage in offensive action against the Kurds. If we can resolve those two issues, I think there is the opportunity for enormous trade, enormous strategic cooperation, but those two issues are real and significant.
Özellikle tabii burada bir şey birbirinden ayırmamız lazım.
First of all, we have to make a distinction here.
Kürtler ve teröristler.
The Kurds and the terrorists.
Kürtler benim aynı zamanda vatandaşım.
Kurds are, at the same time, my citizens.
Dünyada en çok Kürt'ün yaşadığı yer benim ülkemdir.
And my country happens to be the country where the largest Kurdish ethnicities live.
Şu anda parlamentoda partimin 50 kadar Kürt milletvekili var.
And currently in my parliament, my political party has 50 MPs of Kurdish descendants.
Diğerlerinde böyle bir şey yok.
And the other political parties lack that.
Ve etnik olarak da özellikle Güneydoğu ve Doğu Anadolu bölgesinde ciddi manada siyasi parti yapılanmasını en geniş anlamda yapan benim partimdir.
And especially in the southeastern and eastern Anatolian regions of Turkey, my political party had the greatest political network ever.
O bölgelere yaptığım yatırımları ancak yerinde görebilirseniz anlayabilirsiniz.
And you can only appreciate the scale of the investments that we had conducted were you to visit them in situ.
Ve Sayın Obama döneminde Kobani'den ülkeme iltica eden Kürtlerin sayısı 350 bindir.
And when President Obama was still in the office, the number of the Kurdish refugees coming from Kobani to Turkey reached 350,000.
Bunları kimse kabul etmezken biz kabul ettik.
When nobody was accepting these refugees, we did.
Ve onların giyimi, yedirmesi, içirmesi, sağlığı, eğitim durumları hepsi bize ait.
And it all depends on us, their healthcare, their education, anything and any service that you may think.
Kimsenin bunlara ekonomik herhangi bir desteği söz konusu değil.
And no one else supported them financially or economically.
Fakat sizin Kürt diye zikrettiğiniz herhalde PYD, YPG.
But I assume the ones that you're referring to as Kurds are either PYD or YPG.
Bunlar terör örgütü.
These are terrorist organizations,
Ve bunlar PKK'nın yan kuruluşlarıdır.
and they are the offshoots of the PKK.
Ben sizlere bazı belgeleri özellikle vermek istiyorum.
And I would like to submit to your party some documents specifically.
APO denilen bölücü terör örgütü başının mesela Ferhat Abdişahin aslında manevi evladıdır.
Well, Ferhat Abdişahin, it happens to be the almost like a stepson to the previous leader of the PKK, Abdullah Öcalan.
Bunları özellikle tabii bilmekte fayda var.
And this is the information that one needs to know especially.
Benim Sayın Başkan'ın ifade ettiği ki Sayın Obama döneminde de ben bunu ifade etmiştim. Güvenli bölgeyi bizim yapmamız lazım.
And when we were discussing with President Trump, I reiterated the same fact as I did with President Obama when he was in the office. We need to establish this safe zone.
Uluslararası bir donörler toplantısıyla Suriye'nin kuzeyinde şu anda 444 kilometre uzunluk ve 32 kilometre Sayın Başkan'ın 20 mil diye ifade ettiği o bölgeyi güvenli bölge olarak ifade edebiliriz.
And in the northern part of Syria, for the establishment of a safe zone with a length of 44 kilometers and with a depth of 32 kilometers, we can establish the safe zone, maybe with the participation of the international donors, and maybe we can launch an appeal for an international donors conference to be held.
Biz planları yaptık,
We have drafted the plans
projeleri hazırladık.
and we have prepared the projects.
Ve burada adım atarsak 6 ay ile 2 yıl arasında burada konutlarıyla her şeyle bu güvenli bölgeye 1 milyon mülteciyi yerleştirebiliriz.
And if we were to start taking these steps forward in order to realize these projects, between 6 months to 2 years, we can repatriate about 1 million refugees there in the
1
safe zone.
milyon da Rakka, Deir Zor bu bölgeye yerleştirebiliriz.
And we can repatriate 1 million refugees in cities such as Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor.
Şu anda bizde olan 4 milyon mültecinin 3 milyon 650 bini Arap,
3,650,000 of the 4 million refugees that we currently have in Turkey are of Arab descendants.
Keldani,
And we have also Christian
Yazidi.
minorities known as Kaldani
Hristiyan,
and Yazidi. They are Christians.
350 bin de Kürttür.
And we have about 350,000 Kurdish descendants.
Toplamda 4 milyon.
A total of 4 million refugees.
Ve bizim şu ana kadar yaptığımız yatırım 40 milyar dolardır.
And until so far, we have invested more than $40 billion.
Avrupa'dan bize gelen ise bütün bu süreç içerisinde maalesef sadece 3 milyar avrodur.
And until so far, we have only received 3 billion euros from European
O da
Union.
bizim milli bütçemize değil, STK'lar vasıtasıyla Kızılay ve AFAD'dır.
But those funds were not directly allocated into our national budget. These funds were used through the Turkish Disaster Relief Agency and the Turkish Red Crescent with the international NGOs.
We have 4 million refugees right now in Turkey. And Turkey's been paying the cost for these, and frankly, Europe should step up because Europe is being helped to a large extent. You have 4 million. If they were released, they would go throughout Europe. So hopefully Europe will step up.
Avrupa'nın da devreye yardım yapması gerekiyor. 4 milyon göçmen var. Bunların Avrupa'ya çıkması önemli.
Okay?
Sorun yok.
Thank you all very much.
How are
Thanks,
you gonna,
everybody.
how are you gonna reconcile between the purchase of the S-400 versus your desire to sell F-35?
Well, that's what we're here for. We're talking about it with our great senators.
What are the alternatives?
I think they have a lot of alternatives. We'll work something out. I project that we will work something out with Turkey. I think it'll work out fine. Okay? Thank you. Mr. President, thank you. Thank you very much.
Press, we're done. Go, come on. Come on, we're done. We're done. Let's go.
Thank you.
I like this in Turkey.
Thank you. She's great.
Diyanet sizde bir çay ısmarlarlar. Diyanet'in çayı güzel.
Almıyorum. Niye? Çünkü aspirine alerjim var. Ona alerjim var. Tam olarak ona alerjim var. Televizyon almak macezik. Mavi bir.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and the President of the Republic of Turkey.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please. I want to begin by welcoming the First Lady with us today and the First Lady of Turkey. Thank you very much for being here. This is a great honor to have you. And we had a wonderful and very productive meeting. Before we start, I would like to thank President Erdogan for releasing detainee Serkan Golge, who was in detention in different forms of detention, and I appreciate that very much. That was a very nice tribute, and he'll be coming back at some point in the not-too-distant future. So that's very good news for the United States and also very good news for Turkey. Turkey, as everyone knows, is a great NATO ally and a strategic partner of the United States around the world. Our economic relationship has tremendous potential and continues to expand and to grow. Direct engagement and diplomacy between our nations are essential to ensuring a future of peace and prosperity and promise for our citizens. Over the course of the day, President Erdogan and I had a frank and productive conversation on a range of very important topics. Among those topics we discussed was the situation in Syria. Last month, I sent Vice President Pence, Secretary of State Pompeo is with us, National Security Advisor O'Brien, thank you, to meet with President Erdogan in the hopes of ending all of the hostilities. The negotiations were very successful, and the United States and Turkey achieved a tremendous amount on that day, and I think we're working toward getting it better and better. It's a complicated situation. It's been going on for hundreds of years. Today, the ceasefire continues to hold, and I want to thank the President for his partnership and cooperation as we work to build a more stable and peaceful and prosperous Middle East. We've assured each other that Turkey will continue to uphold what it's supposed to uphold. I'm a big fan of the President, I have to tell you that. And I know that the ceasefire, while complicated, is moving forward and moving forward at a very rapid clip. There's a lot of people that want to see that work after so many decades and so many centuries, you might say. The United States and Turkey are working extensively on many other security issues. Turkey has the second largest armed forces in NATO after the United States, and they're a very strong second, I might add. And I'm pleased that Turkey has been steadily increasing its defense spending and is very close to the 2% of GDP range, unlike many of the other countries. At this moment, there are 8 out of the 28 countries that are current in terms of their obligation financially. Turkey has made a vital contribution to NATO's resolute support mission in Afghanistan, and its partnership was important to our destruction of the ISIS caliphate. In fact, just recently when we took out al-Baghdadi and take him out, we did. Turkey knew that we were going over certain areas. They were very, very helpful. We appreciate that very much. Good for both countries. We really appreciate it. We're grateful to President Erdogan and to the citizens of Turkey for their cooperation in the constant struggle against terrorism. He fights it like we do. Key to our security collaboration is our trade defense and military equipment program. American foreign military sales to Turkey total many billions of dollars, and Turkey supplies component parts to many American defense programs. They make parts of the frame, as an example, for the F-35. Turkey's acquisition of sophisticated Russian military equipment, such as the S-400, creates some very serious challenges for us, and we are talking about it constantly. We talked about it today. We're talking about it in the future. Hopefully, we'll be able to resolve that situation. We've asked our Secretary of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs and our respective national security advisors to immediately work on resolving the S-400 issue. We've also recently agreed to work toward a $100 billion two-way trade agreement. Secretary Ross is here, and I think we've made tremendous progress in that. We have a lot of trade with Turkey, but it could be many times larger, and Turkey would like to see that, and it would also be good for the United States. So we intend to bring it up to about $100 billion. That would be 4 times what it is right now. Our goal is to expand commerce between the United States and Turkey, reduce our trade deficit, and ensure a truly fair and reciprocal relationship. We are, just for those of you that have any interest, we discussed it today also. Our trade agreement with China is moving along very rapidly. We'll see what happens, but it's moving along rapidly. China wants to make a deal, that I can tell you. One of my chief priorities as president has been removing the barriers to American trade and investment and ending the illicit practices that harm our workers. We encourage Turkey to further open its markets, and they are doing that. They are doing that very much. Toward American goods and American services, our markets are open. Turkey is opening up their markets, and they're opening up rapidly. Mr. President, as we have seen in recent weeks, the U.S.-Turkish alliance can be a powerful force for security and stability, not only in the Middle East, but beyond. I look forward to working with you and to your representatives. I want to thank you very much all for being here. I've gotten to become very familiar with all of you, and I really appreciate you doing a fantastic job for the people of Turkey. And I look forward to continuing to find a common ground, harness common purpose, and to advance the vital interests of our people and the abiding friendship between our nations. We have a great relationship, both personally and with the great country of Turkey, and we look forward to moving that forward and making it an even bigger and better relationship. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sayın Başkan, değerli dostlar,
Mr. President, my dear friend,
saygıdeğer bakanlar, kıymetli
distinguished ministers, secretaries, distinguished members of the press, I would like to, at the onset, salute you with my most heartfelt emotions on behalf of myself and my nation. First and foremost, I would like to thank my dear friend President Trump and the First Lady of the United States for being such gracious hosts today. We've managed to comprehensively discuss all the issues in our agendas with Mr. President all throughout the day, and the discussions were very sincere. We all agree that we need to further profound our cooperation and that Turkish-American relations should be erected upon a strong and a very healthy foundation. I think we should remain resolved in order to open a new chapter in our relations which are in full compliance with our deeply rooted alliance.
konusunda karşılıklı
We have reciprocally stated our will to fight terrorist organizations, imposing a clear and a present danger upon our national security. We have especially underlined the significance of fighting against Daesh in a sustained fashion, especially in the aftermath of the demise of Baghdadi, the death of Baghdadi. We have detained several prisoners trying to flee the prisons in Syria and come to Turkey, and we currently have more than 200 Daesh terrorists who have been incarcerated. And with the Operation Peace Spring initiated on October the 9th, Turkey took another step forward in fighting terrorism in a very resolute fashion. Our country, with this operation, blew a very significant impact upon the separatist agenda of terrorist organizations such as PKK and YPG in Syria.
fırsat yakaladığımızı düşünüyoruz.
In order to further strengthen our cooperation in Syria, we believe we have gained a significant momentum with our October 17th agreement or memorandum. But in order to harm this memorandum, PKK and YPG are attacking our soldiers and the civilians in a very provocative fashion. And in the last 24 hours, more than 19 attacks and harassing shots took place. And at the beginning of this month, in Tel Abyad, a bomb was placed, an explosive device was placed in an outdoor market, and as a result of the explosion, 13 civilian lives were lost. Despite all of these developments, in order to settle the conflict in Syria in a sustained fashion, we are reiterating our commitment to our memorandum, our agreement with the United States. But some circles who are empathetic towards these terrorist organizations are feeling deeply upset, they are deeply disturbed, and they are using this information in order to cloud the understanding of the public opinion and that perception with the eventual gain or goal of harming our relations. And some historical developments and allegations are being used in order to dynamite our reciprocal and bilateral relations. Especially in the House of Representatives, some of the resolutions that were passed on October 29th served this very purpose, hurt deeply the Turkish nation, and they have a potential of casting a deep shadow over our bilateral relations. And I shared this information with Mr. President. The decision makers in an incident that took place about 104 years ago should not be politicians, but historians. We have nothing to hide, and we have a full self-esteem in that regard. But I need to state very clearly that we are, as Turkey, on the side of dialogue and open discussion and debate. And we have voiced our proposals to the Armenian party to open the archives reciprocally and establish a history commission. I believe the Senate will take the United States out of this vicious cycle, which happened as a result of the resolution of the House of Representatives. Turkey and the United States stand side by side in order to fully eradicate Daesh and in order to bring peace and stability to Syria once and for all. And for this purpose, we should keep on working together. Turkey remains, or it should be, the most reliable partner of the United States in this region to achieve these targets. We are the only NATO ally, as Turkey, who has fought Daesh in a very resolved fashion. And until so far, we have detained 7,680 foreign fighters, and we have sent them back to their countries of origin. And we have entry to 77,000 individuals who are considered to be affiliated with Daesh terrorist organization. And right now in our prisons, a total of 1,216 Daesh members are incarcerated, coming from 40 different countries. We have quite recently detained 287 individuals, including women and children, who have fled the prisons that PKK and YPG
alınması da büyük önem arz ediyor.
used to
Avrupa'dakiler başta olmak üzere kaynak ülkelerini geri kabule ikna etme konusunda Sayın Başkan'la ortak anlayışa sahibiz. Değerli basın mensupları, Türkiye'nin Suriye ile 911 kilometre uzunluğunda sınırı bulunuyor. Bu ülkede yaklaşık 9 sene önce çatışmalar başladığında hadiselerden en fazla etkilenen biz olduk. Halihazırda 3 milyon 650 bini Suriyeli, daha çok Arap, Ezidi, Keldani olmak üzere, bunun yanında 350 bini de Kürtlerden oluşan 4 milyonu aşkın sığınmacıya ev sahipliği yapıyoruz. Bu insanlar için bütçemizden şu ana kadar 40 milyar doları aşkın harcama yaptık. Avrupa ise bize şu ana kadar söz verdiği halde ne yazık ki 3 milyar avro gibi bir desteği STK'larımıza sağladı. Aynı şekilde Suriye toprakları içinde yaşayan 3 milyon insana da düzenli insani yardım gönderiyoruz. 2015 G20 Antalya zirvesinde yaptığım güvenli bölge oluşturma çağrısı
At the
zamanında hayata
G20 Antalya
geçmediği
Summit,
için
I launched an
on
appeal in
binlerce
order to
masum
establish a safe zone in
hayatını
Syria.
kaybetti.
But because of the delay,
Bu sorunun
tens of
ilaniyaya böyle
thousands
devam
of
etmesi
civilian
mümkün
lives were
değildir.
lost. This
Daha önce
problem
Fırat
cannot continue
Kalkanı ve
forever and
Zeytin Dalı
ever.
harekatıyla
Previously, with our
4000
Operation
kilometre karelik
Euphrates Shield
alanı
and Operation
terörden
Olive
arındırmıştır.
Branch, we have managed to
Sayın
clear an
Başkan'ın
area
da
of 4,000
güvenli bölge
square kilometers
ilanı talebine
of terrorist
aynen
presence.
katılıyorum.
And I
Bunu
agree with the
gerçekleştirmemizin
proposals of
çok önemli
the
olduğuna da
president. It's very
inanıyorum.
important to realize our
Daha önce
goals.
Fırat Kalkanı dedim, Zeytin Dalı dedim ama 365 bin
I said
Suriyelinin
Operation
kendi
Euphrates Shield and
topraklarına
Operation
geri
Olive
dönüşünü
Branch,
sağladık
and
Cerrah
through
Bursa'da.
these operations we've managed
Barış
to
Pınarı
repatriate
harekatıyla güvenli
365,000
hale
Syrians
getirdiğimiz şehir ve
back
köylere
to
de
their
geri dönüşler
motherlands,
başladı.
especially in Cerrah
Hazırladığımız
Bursa'da. And
ve
thanks to
Sayın
the
Trump'la
Operation Peace Spring,
paylaştığımız
we have
özellikle
secured
plan
many towns and
projeyi
many villages,
Birleşmiş
and the
Milletler
rightful
ve
settlers are
uluslararası
going back.
toplumun da desteğiyle
We have
hayata
shared our projects
geçirebilirsek
with
önümüzdeki dönemde
President Trump
geri
and
dönenlerin
our
sayısı daha
several
da
plans for
artacaktır.
the safe zone.
Hedefimiz
And with the
ilk
support of the
güvenli
United
bölge
Nations and
Irak
international
sınırından
community,
Cerablus'a
we can
kadar olan
repatriate many
bölgede
more
20 mil
Syrian refugees in
derinliğinde
the
olan
northern part of
bölgeye
Syria. We're
1
talking about
milyon
an area
insan
of 444
yerleştirilebilir.
kilometers in length
Rakka,
and 32
Deir Zor
kilometers
bu
in depth.
bölgeye de 1
1
milyon
million people can be
yerleştirilmesi halinde
repatriated, and in
bu
Raqqa
rakam
and
2
Deir Zor,
milyona
1
ulaşmış
million more
olur.
individuals can be repatriated.
Bilindiği
So a
üzere
total of 2
FETÖ,
million
Türkiye'nin
refugees can
anayasal
be
düzenini başarısız
repatriated.
bir darbe girişimiyle
Ladies and gentlemen, as
ortadan
you know, the
kaldırmaya
Fetullah terrorist
kalkışmış
organization
bir
known as
terör
FETÖ
örgütüdür.
attempted to
250 bin
destroy the
insanımızı
constitutional
katleden,
order of Turkey with a failed
2193
coup attempt,
insanımızı yaralayan
and
bu
it
teröristler
is a terrorist
parlamentomuzu
organization
havadan
behind
bombalama
this
cüretini dahi
failed coup. They have
gösterebilmişlerdir.
killed 251
Görüşmelerimizde tabii
individuals,
FETÖ'nün
harming
Amerika Birleşik
2,193
Devletleri'ndeki
citizens,
mevcudiyetinin
and they
sona
have even
erdirilmesi
dared
yönündeki
to
talebimizi ve
bomb our
beklentilerimizi
parliament
bir kez daha
airborne.
vurguluyoruz. Sayın Trump'la
We have
birlikte
once again
ortaya
accentuated
koyduğumuz
our expectations
100
vis-à-vis
milyar
our
dolarlık
friends at the
ticaret
US
hacmi hedefine en
administration
kısa sürede nasıl
once and for all eradicate
erişebileceğimizi
FETÖ
de
presence
ele aldık.
here.
Siyasi meseleler
And we
ile
have also discussed
ticari
with President
konuların
Trump how to
birbirine
achieve the
karıştırılmaması
$100 billion
gerektiğine de
trade volume
inanıyoruz.
threshold as soon as possible.
100
We
milyar
believe
dolar
that we should
hedefimiz
not
bağlamında
confuse political incidents
ticaret
with
bakanlarımızın çalışmaları
commerce-related
devam ediyor.
aspirations.
Temennimiz
And
ve
our
arzumuz
secretaries
bu
of
hedefe
commerce are
ulaşmayı
currently heavily invested
zorlaştıracak
in
adımlardan
achieving the $100
imtina
billion
edilmesidir.
threshold. We hope and pray
Savunma
that we
sanayi
will
alanındaki
shy away
köklü
from
ilişkilerimiz konusu da
certain measures which
tabiatıyla
will make it much more challenging
gündemimizde
for us
yer aldı.
to reach these
S-400
targets.
sistemi
And
ve
we have
F-35
also
programı başta
naturally
olmak üzere
discussed our diplomatic
bu alanda
relations in the
karşılaştığımız
field of
sınamaların
defense
üstesinden
industry.
ancak
Primarily the
diyalogla
S-400 system and the
gelebiliriz.
F-35 program, we
Değerli
can
dostum,
only surmount the
Türkiye'nin
hurdles that we
patriotlar
experience
konusunda
through
maruz
dialogue.
kaldığı
My
haksızlıkları
dear friend
Osaka'da
previously stated
bizzat
back in Osaka
kendileri
at the
gayet
G20
güzel,
summit, the
açık bir şekilde
the
ifade
injustice
etmiştir.
orchestrated
Sayın
against
Başkan'a
Turkey in terms
şayet
of the acquisition of
istenilen
Patriot
şartlarda teklif
missiles.
verilmesi halinde
And we have
Patriot
clearly
satın
stated to President
alabileceğimizi
Trump that under
tekrar
suitable
söyledim ve söylüyorum.
circumstances we could
Türkiye olarak
acquire
Amerika
Patriot
Birleşik
missiles
Devletleri
as well.
Kongresi ile de
As Turkey,
yapıcı bir
we
diyalogla
are
angajmanımızı
ready and
sürdürmeye
committed
hazır
to sustain
olduğumuzu
a very
Sayın
constructive
Başkan'la
dialogue with
paylaştım.
the United
Bu
States Congress,
düşüncelerle
and this is
Sayın
an idea that
Başkan'la
I've shared with President
gerçekleştirmiş
Trump as well.
olduğumuz
So with
görüşmelerin
these thoughts in
hayırlı
mind, I hope
sonuçlar
and pray that our
doğurmasını
discussions and deliberations all
özellikle
throughout the day with
temenni
President
ediyorum.
Trump will yield the
Sayın
most
Başkan'a
auspicious
nazik
results. I would
daveti
like to take this
ve
opportunity
sıcak
to thank President Trump for
misafirperverlikleri
their
için
kind
tekrar
invitation and for
şahsım,
being such
eşim,
gracious hosts
heyetim
all
adına
throughout the day.
özellikle
On behalf of my
teşekkür
personal self,
ediyorum.
on behalf of my delegation, I would like to thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. And I called up the Senate. I asked a couple of our senators, and we really ended up with 5, and others wanting to come, and we'll keep them apprised. But some of them joined us. They happen to be here. Senator Jim Risch, thank you, Jim, very much. Ted Cruz, thank you very much. Lindsey Graham, Lindsey, thank you. And Rick Scott, thank you, Rick, very much. Joni is here. Joni Ernst, someplace. These are people that want to see peace in the Middle East, and I thought it would be appropriate to have them come over. And they met with the president, and we had a lot of very frank discussion. And we're dealing with a very big subject, a complex subject. It's been going on for centuries in many cases, but we're making a lot of progress, tremendous progress in the Middle East. Okay, a couple of questions. Go ahead. OAN, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to just start out getting your general reaction today to the impeachment hearings on the Hill. Do you feel that Democrats made their case, and how did you feel about the Republican performance?
You're talking about the witch hunt? Is that what you mean? Is that what you're talking about? I hear it's a joke. I haven't watched for 1 minute because I've been with the president, which is much more important as far as I'm concerned. This is a sham and shouldn't be allowed. It was a situation that was caused by people that shouldn't have allowed it to happen. I want to find out who is the whistleblower, and because the whistleblower gave a lot of very incorrect information, including my call with the president of Ukraine, which was a perfect call and highly appropriate. And he wrote something that was much different than the fact. I want to find out why the IG, why would he have presented that, when in fact all he had to do is check the call itself and he would have seen it. I'm going to be releasing, I think on Thursday, a second call, which actually was the first of the two, and you'll make a determination as to what you think there. But I've heard just a report, they said it's all third-hand information, nothing direct at all. It can't be direct because I never said it. And all they have to do is look very, very simply at the transcript. If you read the transcript, this was analyzed by great lawyers. This was analyzed by Greg Jarrett. It was analyzed by Mark Levin. It was analyzed by everybody. They said this statement that I made, the whole call that I made with the president of Ukraine was a perfect one. So that this country gets put through that we have to waste this gentleman's time by even thinking about it, talking about it. I'd much rather focus on peace in the Middle East. And I hear that it's a hoax, and it's being played as a hoax. That's what I hear, but you'll have to tell me. Go ahead.
Then, if I may, on Syria and peace in the Middle East, President Erdogan talked about repatriating Syrian refugees back to their homeland. Have you had those discussions with European leaders, since there are so many Syrian refugees?
No, I think that, frankly, Europe should be paying for this to a large extent. As of this moment, Turkey's been paying for most of it. I think the president was saying today they've spent over $40 billion on the cost of that. 40 billion. How much?
30
Oh.
million.
40. That's what I said. Whatever. He spent a lot. Okay. They're throwing out all these different numbers. I heard it was $40 billion. How was that? 40 billion, correct? So $40 billion, and I've heard that number from others, and that's a lot. Europe has contributed about 3, and a lot of these people would go all throughout Europe. I mean, it would be a devastating situation for Europe because he's got 4 million people. He has a lot of Kurds, too, that they're helping and taking care of. So I have spoken to Europe about it. I think they should help us with ISIS because many of them left France, and they left Germany, and they left UK. They left different countries. And these countries should help us because if they ever did get released, which we won't be doing, but if they ever did get released, that's where they want to go. They want to go back to France and Germany and UK and all of those other countries that are not helping us. I gave them the option, would you like to have them back? And intelligently they said, no, thank you. But that's not right and it's not fair. I can tell you also that Turkey captured when some escaped during the conflict, when they had the heavy shooting. And I mean, I think I know how they happened to escape, but it's one of those things. Doesn't matter because Turkey captured everybody that escaped plus an additional group. When we took over, when I became president, ISIS was rampant all over the Middle East. And as of about a month ago, I think, Lindsay, we can say that we have now 100% of the caliphate. They'll always try and grow, but they haven't been able to do that. And what we did last week with al-Baghdadi, who is the absolute founder, leader, set them back. We also got his number 2, and we have our sights on his number 3. So they're not going to be growing too fast. But I will say Turkey's been helping us a lot.
So with that, I also have a question for President Erdogan. With what you're calling a realignment along the northern Syria border, a lot of Christians in that region are feeling very vulnerable. Groups on the ground are saying that attacks on Christians have increased under this new policy and that they're not feeling safe any longer. can you guarantee that the Turkish government will also protect Christians in that region? In fact, there was an attack on an Armenian priest who died, he and his father, this week. ISIS is claiming responsibility.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank
Tam
you.
aksine
Thank you.
Keldani,
On the contrary,
Ezidi ve
Kaldani,
Hristiyanlar
Yazidi,
noktasında
and
da
Christian minorities
bizim özel bir gayretimiz,
is
çalışmamız
an area
var.
where we're especially
Gerek-
sensitive about, and we have certain different plans.
Suriye tarafında kalan ve
Whether it be the ones remaining
ibadethaneleri
on the
bile
side of Syria,
yıkılmış
whose
durumda olanların
sanctuaries have been
biz
destroyed,
ibadethanelerini de yeniden
whose
restore etmek
churches have been
suretiyle
destroyed,
o
will see
insanların
their
kendi
sanctuaries getting
ibadethanelerinde
revived,
ibadetlerini
and their
yapma
churches will be
fırsatını da onlara
reconstructed so that they
biz
can go
hazırlamış
back and start
vaziyetteyiz.
praying there again.
Ve şu
And these
anda
are the plans that we're making
gerek
for them.
Keldani,
As I said
Ezidi,
before, the
Arami,
Christian minorities,
Hristiyan, bütün
Aramic,
bunlardan
Christian,
bizim
Catholics,
tarafımıza geçmiş olanlar
Kaldani
zaten
and
onlar
Yazidi, the ones
herhangi bir
who are
sıkıntı
living
yaşamıyor.
on our side of
Ama
the border
Suriye
have no
tarafında
problems
kalanlarla
whatsoever.
ilgili
But
de
the ones remaining on
onların
the side
oradaki
of
imkanlarını
Syrian
mümkün
territory
olduğunca
will see
daha
their
yani özel bir
worshipping
şartta hallediyoruz.
practices
Onlara da
restored and revived
yiyecek,
in a
yiyecek,
special
ilaç
manner.
vesaire
They're receiving
bunları da
health care, they're
götürüyoruz.
receiving humanitarian aid in every aspect possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to pick somebody?
Evet. Hilal Hanım buyur.
A friendly person from Turkey, please. Friendly. Only friendly reporters. We like to see. There aren't too many of them around.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
You inherited the burden of Obama's flawed foreign policy, and one of those flaws was allying the U.S. with a U.S.-designated terrorist organization, the PKK, and a Syrian offshoot YPG. You are trying to mend the damage that it did to U.S.-Turkey relations. However, you also invited the ringleader of YPG to the White House. His code name Mazlum Kobani, and he is responsible for at least 18 terrorist attacks in Turkey, which caused the death of 164 soldiers and 48 civilians. So, after today's meeting, do you still think of inviting him to the White House, which will be very offensive and hurtful for the Turkish public? Thank you.
Well, I had a very good talk with him. We had a very good recently. And we're working very closely together, and we're also working very closely together with your great president. And a lot of things are happening. A lot of very positive developments are happening. A lot of that is definition. What's your definition of the various groups within the Kurds? You call the Kurds, and then you have various groups, and some like them and some don't. But I think we've made a tremendous we've gained a tremendous amount of momentum and strength and knowledge over the last short period of time. So we'll see what happens. But I will say that the relationship with President Erdogan and Turkey has been outstanding. And, you know, it's a major country with a tremendous military. They're one of our very big purchases of military equipment. They have the finest equipment in the world, which the United States makes. We make by far the best equipment in the world. Turkey understood that a long time ago. So I think a tremendous amount of progress is being made. Okay? Thank you very much. You could ask the president a question now. Same report. You sure you're a reporter? You don't work for Turkey with that question?
Me, okay. I'll be glad to. Sayın Cumhurbaşkanım, özellikle FETÖ mevzusunda
Mr. President, about FETÖ, we are not getting the best of news out of the United States. And the FETÖ office targeting Turkey is extensively invested in their daily works, but I can see certain traces that the US government is ready to understand more about FETÖ. So my question is, how do you perceive the situation developing vis-a-vis the Fethullahist terrorist organization and the American approach to FETÖ in that regard?
Tabii birçok
Can we expect anything
belgeleri
further?
özellikle bu
Yes, thank
seyahatimizde
you.
de
During this
kendilerine
current visit, we
takdim
are
ettik
going to
ve
submit,
bu
as
belgeler
we already have
ışığında da
actually, a great deal
çünkü
of
FETÖ bizim için
documents
bir
and
terörist
evidence.
başıdır.
And
Zira
FETÖ is a
bizim
terrorist organization,
251
and he is
vatandaşımız şehit
the
olmuştur.
leader, the ringleader of this terrorist
Devlete bir darbe
organization. They
yapılmıştır.
have killed 251
2193
people in Turkey.
vatandaşımız
They tried to undertake
gazi
a coup
olmuştur.
against
Bütün bu
the
olayların
government, the
faili
state,
olan bir
and more than
insanın
1,000, more than
Amerika'da
2,000 people have
400 dönüm
been
bir arazide
injured, and the
yaşayarak
ringleader is
oradan
living on
dünyadaki
an
diğer
area of
yerleri
400
idare
acres
etmesi
in the United
gerçekten
States, running his
pek
network all
yani
around the globe.
kabul edilebilir
And this is
bir durum
something
değildir.
unacceptable.
Ve şimdi bu seyahatimizde
And
belgeler falan
during this
ayrıca
visit,
getirdik
as
ve
I've
bu
said before,
belgeleri
we
de
have
kendilerine
introduced an
takdim
additional array
edeceğiz.
of
Temenni
documents.
ederim
We will
bu
submit them to
belgeler
the relevant
ışığında
authorities, including
herhalde
Mr.
bizden
President.
nasıl
And in the light of these
teröristler
documents,
istendiği zaman biz veriyorsak
I think they will
onlar da
appreciate
bu
the
teröristi
situation.
bize
We
verir.
send the terrorists back if they ask for them, and I'm sure they will do the same for us.
John Fox, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I know that you didn't spend a lot of time glued to the TV today, but there was one moment where Ambassador Bill Taylor recounted a conversation that an aide of his overheard. It was the day after the phone call with Zelensky on July the 26th, in which the aide says that he overheard you say to Sondland, how are things going with proceeding with the investigations? Sondland repeated back to you, according to this aide, that Ukraine was prepared to do everything that you wanted it to do. Is that correct? And can you fill in some more?
I know nothing about that. First time I've heard it. The one thing I've seen that Sondland said was that he did speak to me for a brief moment, and I said no quid pro quo under any circumstances, and that's true. The other, I've never heard this. In any event, it's more second-hand information, but I've never heard it.
Do you recall having a conversation with
I don't
Sondland
recall,
on
no,
July
not at all, not even a little bit. The only thing, and I guess Sondland had stayed with his testimony, that there was no quid pro quo. Pure and simple. Yes, please.
And to President Erdogan, President Trump sent you a letter on October the 9th urging you not to launch a military action into northern Syria. He said, quote, don't be a tough guy, don't be a fool. You ignored that letter and you went ahead and you launched a military action into northern Syria. Can you explain why you ignored the president's warning?
Tabii bu mektupları bugün
Well,
Sayın Başkan'a
This
ben tekrar takdim
letter
ettim.
was represented
Ve
to
özellikle
Mr.
de Ferit
President
Abdüşahin
this
denilen
afternoon,
bu teröristin
and
Amerika
I've
gibi
also
bir
underlined the fact
ülkenin
that a terrorist such as
başkanı tarafından
Ferit
muhatap alınmasını
Abdüşahin should not
üzüntüyle
be
tabii ki
considered as an
karşıladım.
interlocutor by a country
Ve
such as the United
Ferit
States.
Abdüşahin denilen
And this
yüzlerce insanımızın öldürülmesine
Ferit Abdüşahin
vesile olan bir
has been
teröristtir.
instrumental in the
Ve
killings
şu anda
of
cezaevinde
hundreds
olan
of Turkish
Papa'nın
civilians,
da manevi
and he
oğlum
is
dediği
a
bir
person
teröristtir.
labeled
Böyle
as
birisinin
like a son
bizim
for
stratejik
the
ortağımız
terrorist leader who is currently
tabii
incarcerated in
Amerika
Turkey,
tarafından
Abdullah
bu
Öcalan.
şekilde
So a person like
karşılanması
this should not be
doğrusu bizi
welcomed by a country
üzmüştür.
such as
Aynı
the
şekilde
United
tabii
States.
bu şahıs
And
Rusya
similarly,
tarafından da yine
this
bu
person
şekilde
was
karşılanmıştır.
welcomed by a
Tabii
country
bunları anlamakta
such as
dünyadaki
Russia.
terörizmle
So it's
mücadelede
very difficult for me to
zora giriyoruz.
understand these
Eğer
when
biz
we're trying
terörizmle
to fight
sağlıklı bir
terrorism on a
mücadele
global
vereceksek
scale. If we're
bu
going to
konuda
sustain our
çok daha
fight against
hassasiyet
terrorism
içerisinde
in a healthy
olmamız
fashion, we
lazım.
need to be much more
Bugün bize,
sensitive than we
yarın bir
currently are.
başkasına.
It happens to us
O
today,
bakımdan
and it will happen
bu
to
konudaki
somebody else
hassasiyetimiz
tomorrow.
devam
Is a
ediyor.
saying
Bunlarla
that goes
ilgili de
in our language.
belgeleri verdim.
We have also
Hatta
provided information and the
CIA
document
teşkilatının bu
thereof
adamın terörist
to our
olduğuna dair
interlocutors
vermiş
in
olduğu belgeyi de
the White
ben
House,
yine kendilerine
including
bugün
Mr. President.
takdim ettim.
And I've also submitted
Çünkü
a
CIA de
document
bunun
produced
bir
by
terörist
CIA
olduğunu
pointing out to the fact that this individual
belgelemiş
is a
ve bu
terrorist.
belgeleri bize
To
de
Mr.
aktardılar
President.
ve biz de bunu ayrıca bugün
And
Sayın
as I've said
Başkan'a
before, I've shared them with
aynen
His
takdim
Excellency
ettik.
Mr. President.
Gelen mektubu da yine aynı
And
şekilde kendilerine verdik.
we gave back the letter that we have received.
President, please.
For me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kurd from Kurdistan. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for all you have done for Kurdistan and for Peshmerga in fight against ISIS.
Yep. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My question is, all senators I meet, all of them, I interviewed them, they believe Kurdistan is very unique in the Middle East and protect all minorities.
Right.
What is your clear policy on the Kurds right now? And as a question for President Erdogan, why you are not able for negotiation with the Kurds in Syria as Iraqi Kurdistan? Do you think they will be your friends in future? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr.
Well, thank you very much. And I will say that we've had a great relationship with the Kurds, and we fought with them very successfully against ISIS. We fought together. We have great generals and we have great equipment, and it certainly helped a lot. But we were very, very successful, and we captured, as I said before, 100%. I was going to, when we were at 97%, I was going to say, well, that sounds pretty high to me. And I was thinking about stopping it then, and a lot of people said, please go to 100. And very quickly, very rapidly, the military got the 100. I wanted to have that. But we have a great relationship with the Kurds. We have had. We're with them now. We get along with them. And by the way, I think the president, he may have some factions within the Kurds, but I think the president has a great relationship with the Kurds. Many Kurds live currently in Turkey, and they're happy and they're taken care of, including health care. We were talking about it before, including health care and education and other things. So that's really a misnomer. But our relationship with the Kurds has been a very good one. Okay? Thank you.
Öncelikle bir şeyi birbirinden ayırt etmemiz lazım.
First, we have to make a distinction
Kürtlerle bir
between two
sorunumuz yok.
things. We have no problems with the
Bizim
Kurds.
sorunumuz
We have
terör
problems
örgütleriyle.
with terrorist
Kürtlerin içinden çıkan
organizations.
bir kısım
Some
teröristler. Kim
terrorists
bunlar?
coming out of
YPG,
the Kurds.
PYD.
Which
bunlar
are they? What are they?
PKK'nın
PYD and YPG, which
Nasıl
are
ki
offshoots
Kuzey
of the terrorist
Irak'taki
organization
Kürt
PKK.
kardeşlerimizle
Just
bizim
as we have no
münasebetlerimiz
problems
gayet
with our
iyiyse,
brothers and sisters in the
Kuzey
northern part of Iraq,
Suriye'deki
where we
Kürt
enjoy great relations,
kardeşlerimizle de bizim bir
and we have no
sorunumuz yok.
problems with,
Esed'in
similarly, our
Kuzey
brothers and sisters in the
Suriye'deki
northern
Kürtleri
part of
kabul etmediği
Syria.
dönemde
During the times
ben o
when
zaman
Assad was
Esed'e
not
yanlış
recognizing Kurdish
yapıyorsun,
presence in the northern part,
pasaportlarını
I
ver
told him
demişimdir.
that he
Benim
needs to
böyle bir
give
konum
these
var.
individuals
İki,
passports and
çok daha
that he
önemlisi,
was
şu
making a
anda
mistake.
bilmeni isterim.
And secondly, there's something really
Parlamentoda
important. I
benim
want you to
partimin
know this.
50'yi
My political
aşkın
party has
Kürt
more than 50
milletvekili vardır.
MPs of Kurdish
Bizim Kürtlerle
ethnicity
sorunumuz yok.
in the Turkish parliament.
Bizim
We don't have
sorunumuz
problems with the Kurds,
teröristlerle.
but we have problems
Herhalde
with the
teröristlere
terrorists.
sizler de sahip
And of
çıkmazsınız.
course, you're not going to
Kim
own up
olursa
to the
olsun.
terrorists, are you?
Burada
Whoever
ayrım
they are,
yapmayacağız.
whoever they
Bizim
might be.
mücadelemiz
But
dediğim
we have to
gibi
make a
tamamen
distinction
teröristlerledir.
here. We're just
Çünkü
fighting
teröristin
terrorists. Period.
ırkı,
Because the
milleti,
terrorists don't have
dini,
an
vatanı
ethnicity,
olmaz.
they don't have a
Terörist,
nationality, they
teröristtir.
don't have a flag.
Eğer
If they're
mücadeleyi
terrorists, that is
vermezseniz
a terrorist.
bedelini yarın
If you
çok ağır
don't fight
ödersiniz.
back, then tomorrow you will have to pay
Peki.
a very hefty price. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you sorry for your guards attacking Americans?
I can't answer the others, but I can answer the last one. Just two.
Almadım, elime almadım. Sağ olasın.